Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here in our quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and this is the show where we get together and talk about the things that we love. Movies and movie news, TV and streaming, and all that good stuff. Joining us today, coming all the way from Texas, Sean Chandler is here, ladies and gentlemen. Sean, how you doing?
I'm good. Looking forward to talking movies way too much.
Way too much. Also, of course, joining us is our technical producer, Jonathan Voico. Jonathan, how you doing?
Hey, all my exes live in Texas, man. That's why I live in California. How you guys doing?
And of course, most importantly, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here, making our little show part of your day. And here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a few predetermined topics we got lined up for you guys. Then in the second part of the show, that's when we take your live comments and questions. If you guys have a thought, theory, opinion, or question you'd like us to address, as long as we deem it appropriate to be addressed on the show, go ahead and fire it on in and we will address it in the second part of the show. Also, want to let you guys know that since this is a live show, you have to be watching live in order to be sending in a super chat. But yeah, send them on in, and they are currently open. I will turn them off at some point because they are already filling up. But send them on in, and we'll get to those in the second part of the show. All right, guys. With that down, let's get things started here, shall we? We're going to start off with this. There were a number of really great pleasant surprises at CinemaCon this past April. And by surprises, I mean projects that were very, very barely on my radar and made me really sit up and go, wow. Maybe the most prominent of those was this little movie called Whalefall that showed us about an 8-minute clip. And I don't think my pulse slowed down until about the next day. I think my heart was still pounding and all I could. It was one of the most stressful 8 minutes I've ever spent watching a screen. It was absolutely crazy. Well, they've now put out another trailer for it. And I have made a life decision, gentlemen. I am never swimming in the ocean again. It's this, I've lived on both coasts. I was born on the Atlantic in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Spent a lot of time out on the fishing boats with family. Now live out here in the West. No, I don't know where sperm whales live, but I'm not going to risk it. I am not going back in the ocean again because, guys, this trailer freaked me the hell out. Now, I was already completely convinced of the tension that this movie was going to have. But this one now taking us into the belly of the whale. You know what? It has a little bit of 127 hours feel. Like a little bit of that. But when you realize
way more
that,
intense.
Yeah, a little bit more intense than that. But also when it adds that element of the ticking clock. And I like the way they did that. Again, the idea of the ticking clock. Of him constantly having to check the gauge and realizing he's only got so much air. He's only got so much time. So he's battling against time. He's battling against the lack of oxygen. He's battling against digestive enzymes. Oh, and that squid apparently is still alive in the whale's gut, and he's got to fight that too. I don't know, guys, if this is going to be one of those movies that is all great premise, but weak on execution. We've seen those before, and maybe that's what this one will be. I do like the little ghost of father past kind of wisdom about his dad was a master. Josh Brolin was a master of the ocean and recalling lessons, survival lessons that his dad passed on him. That's a nice little element too. Again, so I don't know if this is going to be all concept, no execution. Maybe it will be.
The trailers are executing.
The trailers are 100% executing on all cylinders. I'm sold on this. I cannot wait to watch this movie. Anyway, Sean, you had a chance to watch this new, more fleshed out, if you will, trailer for Whalefall, giving us a bit more of an idea of the story and what the movie's going to be like. What have your expectations been like, and how, if at all, has this trailer affected you and changed those expectations?
Yeah, I didn't watch the previous trailer, so this movie wasn't really on my radar, and I had no expectations going into this version of it. I just thought when it started, oh, another creature feature. My wife and I love all of these. A lot of times the Austin press screenings for movies like this, they do them out on a lake where you're in an inflatable. They wouldn't do that in October, but that's where my mind was going when it started. And then he gets eaten. And I was like, oh, is that what this movie is? And as you played out kind of what you said, it's a claustrophobia movie.
Oh,
where
yeah.
when you're in a tight space, like when I see that in a movie, I get uncomfortable. It's a drowning movie. You think in movies where people go underwater, sometimes you hold your breath. That's this whole movie. And then it has the ick factor. So claustrophobia, drowning, and ick factor, three different things that can kind of make you squirm and elicit a physical reaction in the theater while you're watching it, which is contagious in a theater. When you're in a movie theater and the person next to you goes, ooh, you feel it too. And it does three different things like that. Other thing I thought about is Austin Abrams is kind of turning into one of the breakout stars of this year because he's the star of Resident Evil. He was in Weapons a year ago. And so people aren't talking about him that way yet, but it seems like that's about to happen this fall. To your point, though, the question on my mind is, can you sustain this for a feature runtime?
Right. Yeah.
Does it get a little like guys stuck like this? Does that work for a runtime? I don't know. There are movies that have done it. Many of them was 128 Hours. Was it Buried with Ryan Reynolds?
That was a great one.
It's tricky.
Yeah, that was right. By the way, Sean, check your mic input. I think we might be getting the mic from your computer instead of from your mic, but double check that. And I want to go over to you, Jonathan. Did you had a chance to watch this trailer? What did you think about it?
Well, I never knew there was bioluminescence inside the stomach of a sperm whale, so that was interesting.
So it's a learning movie too. You learn things.
Yeah, and I can tell you from personal experience, giant squid are absolutely evil. When I was about 19, I went on a fishing trip to the Bay of Los Angeles, which is not in LA. It's in the off Baja, California, in Mexico, and we went through a school of giant squid that are famously there. They were a mystery whether they were there for a long time. And I remember that National Geographic years later did a documentary on it, and I'm like, I can tell you for a fact those giant squid are there. We were in a ponga, which is like a 4 or 5 person boat. And if you had gotten up and tripped over the edge, you're dead. Those beaks will bite through you like you're made of butter. So I'm actually more frightened of the squid inside the stomach than inside the whale. But no, okay. It's the fact that when you're underwater, you see these things and you can't see them very clearly. Everything is sort of opaque. And then as it gets closer, it's clear. It's like I've had nightmares of like being underwater and a submarine approaches. Like I can only imagine something living. And I understand the reality is like whales typically are not vicious. But do you remember, John, you were talking about not going in the water when I sent you that surf video of those guys who were surfing?
Oh, with the sharks around?
And the sharks, but before that, the massive orcas that were just swimming behind the waves and watching them. I'm like, oh my God, I got cold sweat watching that. So this is on my list. I'm going to see it. I'm going to lose about 5 pounds in sweat, in water weight from sweating, but I'm here for it.
I remember as a kid being in Nova Scotia. So one of our family members is a fisherman. So my dad and whatever, we took us all out on this fishing trip with him, and he was fishing for squid. And they put their things down. They'd pull up these giant squid and black ink all over thing on the decks of the
Yes,
the
I got
boat.
sprayed by that.
And yeah, that's not fun. And then I realized, what is that? And like one of my uncles was like, oh, that's a shark. I guess they got attracted to and I'm like, nope, I stood right in the middle of the boat for the entire rest of the trip.
And if those squid encounter something that's wounded, even another wounded, like they immediately know that the squid is wounded and they just tear it apart and eat it. It's insane.
Anyway, guys, question is for you. Did you have a chance to see the new trailer for Whalefall? If so, what did you think about it? I mean, again, it may be an all concept, no execution movie. Maybe it doesn't end up being good, but damn, it looks good. And I can't wait to go see it. Whatever you guys think about it, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, everybody knows that my most anticipated film of the year is Dune Part 3. I personally think Dune Part 2 is not just the best movie recently. I think it's the best movie of the last 10 years. I think it's an absolute masterpiece. I cannot wait to see what Denis Villeneuve does with the third one. Although I am a little bit nervous because I'm not a big fan of the book. I don't think Dune Messiah is that great, to be honest with you. But Denis is going to be making a lot of changes and adaptations, and we'll see where it goes. Well, anyway, I got contacted yesterday by somebody connected to the studio who let me know that there have now been some internal screenings of what they called a 3-hour cut of the movie, which makes me believe that the movie won't be 3 hours, but there's a current cut of the movie that's like 3 hours long. And they said the consensus coming out of that screening was this is Denis Villeneuve's best film. Now, those are not words one should say lightly when you look at the filmography of Denis Villeneuve. But they said the consensus was that was his best film. Like, all right. So now I wasn't going to talk about that today. But then I noticed this morning there were a couple of other outlets who started reporting they had been hearing the same things. So, for instance, this one's saying they talked to somebody that said that referenced the same screening I believe I was told about. And they said that basically everybody in there was blown away, that everybody was floored and blown away by what they saw. Now, when very quietly, you would have been forgiven if you missed this, but a brand new TV spot actually went online yesterday, a new 30-second spot. It kind of got drowned out, though, by the fact that the tickets went on sale and, you know, it was crashing the ticket sites and all that kind of stuff. And that was kind of the main story. So I don't know if you guys saw that new 30-second spot they put out, but more than half of it was footage that has not been in the previous spots. And it looked breathtaking, like absolutely breathtaking. And, you know, one of the things that I keep forgetting about this one is they changed cinematographers. Like they had the same cinematographer the first two, they went to a new one, and this one's actually being shot on film. And as soon as I remembered that, it's like, oh yes, because you do look at it and it does have a slightly different aesthetic and all this kind of stuff. Now take that with a giant, you know, sandworm sized grain of salt, with the fact that the people I talked to, and apparently the people that some of the others at these other outlets have also heard from, are connected to the studio. All right. So take that with a grain of salt. Studio says their movie's the best. So do take that with a grain of salt. But it does need to be mentioned that this doesn't happen a lot. Like I very rarely hear from anybody at any studio talking about their own movie prior to, you know, their main thrust going on. And so I like hearing what I'm hearing. It is my most anticipated movie of the year. Anyway, Sean, I don't know if you partook in any of the madness yesterday that was trying to get Dune 2 tickets or Dune 3 tickets across the internet. But a couple questions. Did you have a chance to see that new 30-second spot? And what do you think of like some of the word we're hearing, at least coming out of the studio, of this 3-hour cut? What's your anticipation like for the movie? Where do you think it's going to land? How do you see all this?
I wasn't able to watch that TV spot. Once I get a certain point in time with these, I want to stop watching trailers if I'm already sold, unless I have to cover it. So I specifically avoided watching it because I heard there was more footage in it. We know he's a top working director today that works at both a prestige level, but also mainstream accessibility level. And for 50 years, they were trying to adapt Dune, and him and his team were the ones that cracked the code on how to do it. Figured out how to bridge that gap between the density and weirdness of the books and mainstream accessibility and packaging it in a movie. And they cracked the code on how to do it. It's a well-oiled machine at this point in time. And so the idea that this is another great movie in this world from him, that's not terribly surprising. We hear rumors of test screenings and early screenings and overhyping movies. It's happened, but this one has an air of truth to it because you just look at his track record and you go, right, this guy knows what he's doing. His batting average is fantastic at a very high level, like very technically difficult movies, and he pulls them off with excellence. So when you hear it, you go, I can believe that's true because that's what he's been doing for a long time, consistently. And so, in that regard, this was one of my most anticipated movies going into the year. It's one of my most anticipated movies into the fall. Every piece of marketing, everything that I've heard has only confirmed that I should be really excited for this film.
All right, guys. Question is for you. What do you think about this? We're hearing from internal sources, and other outlets are as well, are hearing from internal sources that they have now started screening internally a 3-hour cut of the movie, and they're saying it's absolutely fantastic. What are your expectations like? Did you see that new 30-second spot they put out? If so, what did you think about it? Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Well, you guys know that for a couple of years now, I've been a big fan of Travis Knight, not just because he did Kubo and the Two Strings, but he did, I still believe, the best live action Transformers movie with Bumblebee. He actually found a way to take a franchise that had been run into the ground and breathe new life into it and give it some heart and give it some humanity. And I just really enjoyed Bumblebee. And then Paramount made the ignorant, stupid decision to make Transformers Humping of the Beasts, or whatever that next one they did was, instead
Beast
of
Humpers.
Bumblebee 2. Beast Humpers. That's what it was called. Beast Humpers. Instead of Bumblebee 2, which is still a decision I cannot wrap my head around. I still cannot understand how they made that decision. Now, granted, I personally was not all that thrilled with the recent Masters of the Universe movie. I think the other guys on the show today liked it more than I did, but I love Travis Knight. Well, you may know that he's got this new movie coming called Wildwood. And they dropped the first trailer for Wildwood a little bit ago, and it looked really good. Like, I'm like, wow, like this looks vast and imaginative and beautiful. And yeah, it looks like Travis Knight, man. Looks really good. File that one away, but this one looks like a winner. Well, today they put out a new trailer for Wildwood. And I'm just going to say right now that other than movies opening on December 18th of this year, which of course would be Doomsday and Dune 3. Other than movies opening on that day, this is now my most anticipated movie for the rest of the year. I am struggling to think if there has been a better trailer this year than this. This trailer captured everything from imagination, sorrow, wonder, adventure, sadness, joy, a great potential villain, and not just does this thing look like it has a great villain, they actually gave us the villain origin story all wrapped into one trailer. I believe it is a 2-minute and 22-second trailer of pure captivating wonder. I was floored by this trailer, and I just felt myself, and I don't use this term, like we talked a lot about being excited. We talk a lot about anticipation. Guys, after I watched this trailer, I found myself, here's the word, yearning. I found myself yearning to watch this movie. It is simply one of the most beautiful looking pieces I've seen this year. I cannot wait for it. Now, granted, a lot of the big hitters this year have already come out, and a lot of the other big hitters come out on December 18th, but we're only in August, and I cannot think of another movie on the schedule that has me more excited, nay, yearning to see it, than this Wildwood trailer. It had everything to me. Anyway, Sean, you had a chance to see this trailer. What were your thoughts on the first trailer? What were your thoughts about the movie going into this trailer? And now that you've seen the new trailer, what are you thinking now?
Yeah, I didn't really have too many expectations. I'm not really familiar with the book. It was just kind of conceptually like, oh, Travis Knight is returning to Laika. And what is this movie going to be that has been in the works for a number of years? And even the first trailer didn't have as much of the scope and size to it. So still went into this one without particularly big expectations. And the word I wrote down in my notes was unexpected epic. That you're watching it and it feels kind of like, all right, we're kind of looking at this kind of small story, family story, and then as the trailer goes along, it's this big. Oh no, it's this big, and it turns into this massive epic where I don't even fully understand what I'm looking at in a way that raises curiosity. And what is this world that we're discovering throughout the trailer and of course throughout the movie? With all of these different cultures and battles taking place, with unexpected armies running towards each other. Like, I don't understand what I'm seeing. And when you have a movie that it feels like there's actual surprises to it, it doesn't feel like I've seen this movie before. That's really exciting to me. And just in general, the Leica movies being stop motion, they truly look unlike anything else that's being made. So visually, it's unique and distinct.
Yeah.
And then the story itself is something so different from what we normally see. I'm not as excited about it, say, as you are, but as someone that is looking forward to something fresh, unique, and different, when I look at what's coming out this fall, this looks like one of the freshest, most unique movies that we're getting in the near future.
Jonathan, you had a chance to see the trailer too. What was your response to it? What did you think about it?
I kept thinking, I wonder if this epic music wasn't in it, would it be the same? And for me, the answer is yes. I mean, it kind of reminds me in terms of the art direction on it. I know it's stop motion, so it's a different direction, but it stood out to me the way the Wild Robot stood out to me, where it's like, I just want to see this movie for the art direction itself. And much like I would say, well, Kubo and the Two Strings did come from the same director, but Kubo and the Two Strings, something like Up, something like Inside Out, there's grief that is like an undertone to what's going on. So there's more than just the epic story, which looks incredible, and more than just the coming of age. It's what's driving it is dealing with grief. So I think this is going to have a couple moments where the audience starts probably weeping. I think there's going to be some up moments there.
I almost felt myself getting emotional just watching it. Like when the shot of the kid's horse going off the trail and falling down the mountain, and then the cut to the mother standing there. Come on, tell me something didn't stir a little bit.
Right off the bat, we don't have a mustache twirling villain. Right off the bat, we have empathy for the villain. Yeah. So yeah, we're already hooked.
I cannot wait to watch this. And again, for me, it is now my most anticipated film of the year of all the films that are not opening on December 18th. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What did you think about this trailer for Wildwood? I am absolutely blown away by it. Like, I thought the last one was really good, but this one is just this is a special trailer, man. I cannot wait to watch this movie. Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we thought we would take a little time today and play ourselves a game of Overreaction. The way Overreaction works is very simple. We asked you guys on the YouTube channel to send us some of your hot takes, and we gathered up a bunch of them, and now Sean and I are simply going to adjudicate whether your hot take is an overreaction or not an overreaction. So, Jonathan, what do we got up here first?
All right, first up, Sean, we're going to start with you. Is this an overreaction from Rodrigo? Guillermo del Toro's Hellboy duology is the most underrated comic book movies, or are the most underrated comic book movies of all time.
I think that that's entirely reasonable. I think it's an obvious contender because these are movies from Guillermo del Toro. They're gorgeous to look at. They have a unique style. They're beloved, but they're not part of Marvel and DC. They're not nearly as high profile. And so you have something that's great that doesn't necessarily get recognized as often as the Marvel and DC comic book movies of its same, pedigree. Overrated is always a little bit tricky because I think sometimes in the case of these, they're just underwatched. The people that have watched these movies praise them, but a lot of maybe younger people that weren't alive when they came out haven't necessarily seen them. And so, but I think they're obvious contenders. I don't think this is a particularly hot take.
Yeah, I'm going to say that this one is an overreaction. I love the first Blade movie, the first Hellboy movie. I'm going to be honest with you though. I am different from most of my peers, because a lot of people I know, Sean, actually prefer Hellboy 2 over Hellboy 1. I wasn't in love with Hellboy 2. Like, I like Hellboy 2, but I wasn't in love with it. But as long as we live in a world where my boy Henry Cavill's Man of Steel exists, that is the most underrated comic book film of all time. But I wouldn't say just that. Like, I honestly think the first Kenneth Branagh directed Thor movie is tragically underrated. I think the first Chris Evans Captain America, the first Avenger, is a tragically overrated, overlooked film. I'll even include this one in it. The Ben Stiller, Hank Azaria, William H. Macy masterpiece, Mystery Men, is a really underappreciated film. I just think there are a number of them that I would put on the list. Do I really enjoy the Hellboy movies? Oh, hell yes. Of course I do. But I think it's an overreaction to say they're the most underappreciated ones when those other ones are out there. All right, Jonathan, what do we got up next?
All right. John, is this an overreaction? We're going to hear from Nico S. In 10 years, shall I say it the way John would pronounce it? Denis Villeneuve will be regarded higher than that. Just so you know, that wasn't me pronouncing it. That was my impersonation of John pronouncing it. Will be regarded higher than Christopher Nolan is today.
We are very excited to share with you, the audience. Again, as a guy who took 10 years of French in my Canadian school, and I still have a terrible French accent. While I am not going to predict that 10 years from now, Denis will be considered on a higher level than Christopher Nolan, it is not an overreaction to think that that's what it could be in 10 years. I mean, like, Denis, first of all, it's very interesting. I watched this thing recently about just how tight Denis and Christopher Nolan are. Like, they are each other's biggest fans. Like, you're going to be hard pressed to find a bigger fan of Christopher Nolan than Denis Villeneuve, and you're going to have a hard time finding a bigger fan of Denis than Christopher Nolan. And so they say they inspire each other, they motivate, all that kind of stuff, which is great. But I mean, these are two directors that I am hard pressed. I mean, I think Steven Spielberg's the greatest director of all time, bar none, hands down, and by a mile. But I can point to a couple of things he's done over his, very long and extensive career that I have straight up not liked. I can't point to one of those that either Christopher Nolan or Denis has done. Like, even Sound Mix Problem, the movie, with Robert Pattinson, whatever the name of it was now. What was it? The one he did with Robert Pattinson? Tenet. Even Tenet, I didn't dislike. It's probably my least favorite or second least favorite of his movies, but even that I didn't dislike. And I
Bane worked on the sound mix.
Yeah, that had a lot to do with it. But I mean, like, what was Denis' bad film? Prisoners? I don't think so. Dune? No, I mean, so when you look at the trajectory of both of these guys, to me, Sean, they're both doing this. And so it's not an overreaction to think that, 10 years from now, we could be talking about Denis higher than we talk about Christopher. But I mean, I think it could be this. I think the next 15 years, and this is why it's so great to be a film fan today, could literally be these two, like Bird and Magic Johnson, winning titles off each other. I think we could literally spend the next 15 years watching these two leapfrog over each other. So I'm not going to predict that's what will happen, but I'm going to say it's not an overreaction to think that could be the case. Sean, what do you think?
I would essentially agree with you, but the thing I would say that is holding Denis back is that he's been in franchise world for the last 10 years, knocking it out of the park. But I mean, it was Blade Runner 2049 and then 3 Dune movies and then James Bond, where if you look at Nolan, I think there's a little bit more variety, and we're Oppenheimer to the Odyssey, a fully original like Tenet. And I think for me to overall view him as surpassing Nolan, I think I need to see something that's not just knocking a franchise out of the park. And I think it's entirely possible, but him going back and doing another Sicario, another Prisoners, another Arrival, and kind of cutting in the way that Nolan even did with his Dark Knight trilogy. I mean, it was Batman Begins, The Prestige, The Dark Knight, Inception, Dark Knight Rises, Interstellar, and had that back and forth. that I would like to see a little bit more to, because I love he's a guy that can get an original movie made and would do something incredible. And there's not a lot of people with the freedom that he would have the way that Nolan also has. So I want to see that. That would be the thought on my mind. But absolutely, I mean, in terms of talent and prestige talent with mainstream accessibility, they can make blockbusters people show up to, but they're making Oscar level films. Those are the two guys.
That reminds me so much of like the Beach Boys and the Beatles when they were pushing boundaries in the studio and compete, and then they were competing, not their pop stuff, but they were competing with each other with their more complex stuff. It's like one after another, you know?
All right, Jonathan, what we got up next?
We got up Less Hero. We're going to go over to you, Sean, on this. Is this an overreaction? Given Destin Daniel Cretton's current commitments and Sony eyeing him for Spider-Man 5, Shang-Chi will get a new director if it ever happens.
That seems likely to me. Shang-Chi 2 should have come out 2 years ago.
Yep.
And I would have been so excited about it 2 years ago. But if it's not in production now, by the time this movie comes out, it's 7-8 years after the first movie. That movie wasn't a big enough hit. And the character wasn't established enough to like carry that amount of weight between films. So it already feels a little bit like we're having to reignite the franchise. And you've got a guy that, I mean, he's about to have the third highest grossing movie of all time. He's on top of the world. And it feels like going backwards to do Shang-Chi. I would have loved to see his Shang-Chi 2 years ago. But that's just not what happened. And it just feels like too little too late. I mean, even if he's a standout character in Doomsday and in Secret Wars, then that sequel should have come out in 2028 to ride that wave of momentum, but they've already filled their slate for that year. So I don't see a version where it even makes a lot of sense to do a Shang-Chi 2 at this point in time. So, which I hate to say that because I would love to see it.
Yeah, I have no doubt that they are going to do Shang-Chi 2. Like I have no doubt about that. Unfortunately, I also have to agree with you that it is not an overreaction to say it's going to have a different director. I mean, the one thing it's got going for it is Destin is very passionate about Shang-Chi. And obviously Kevin Feige, they literally put Shang-Chi in the first trailer for Doomsday. And they featured him in the second one too. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, obviously Feige likes the character. They featured him very prominently. He was one of the major characters in, what was it called? Marvel Zombies, the animated series that they did. He featured very strongly in that. I have no doubt they're going to do number 2, but I also have very little doubt that it's not going to have Destin directing it. And that's fine. Destin is already developing it, so he's already overseeing a script development on it. He'll probably be a producer on it, and I'm sure they'll get somebody very good to direct it. But between Natatutu, or whatever the name of the movie is he's doing now, and then, of course, they're definitely going to want to move on a Spider-Man 5. I'm not saying we're going to get a Spider-Man 5 by 2029 per se, but they're going to want to get moving on that one pretty soon. And they may even hand him another event. Remember, he was supposed to do Avengers Kang Dynasty. So they may very well be warming up to hand him the keys to the Avengers franchise again after Secret Wars. All that means no Shang-Chi for Destin. We will get it. We will get it. But it just will not be with Destin directing it, unfortunately. All right. What's next, Jonathan?
All right, John, is this an overreaction? We're going to hear from Anton Partouche. Either Secret Wars or The Hunt for Gollum will move off the December 17th, 2027 release date.
7 months ago, I would have said absolutely. Because 7 months ago, I believe I was still at that point under the impression that I thought it was a mistake to do Dunesday. To try to have Avengers Doomsday and Dune 3 come out on the same day. However, as new information becomes available, we change our opinions. I've been won over to the idea of Doomsday. When we see now Avengers Doomsday, despite the fact that Dune 3 is opening on the same day, some people are now saying it's looking to make between 370 and 400 million opening weekend. Are you effing kidding me? It's already sold over 100 million in tickets for its pre-sales. It's insane. At the same time, they're now projecting, remember, Dune 2 had an $85 million opening weekend, I believe. they're not projecting Dune 3, despite the fact that it's opening on the same day as Avengers Doomsday. They're saying it may open to as high as 125. And it was crashing ticket sites yesterday.
Yeah.
Do I see any evidence that these two movies opening against each other is hurting either one of them in any way? I'm not seeing any evidence of it. And so, whereas a few months ago, Sean, I would have said, yeah, not an overreaction. One of those two movies got to move. But if Doomsday does open to 350 million plus, and if Dune 3 does open to 100 million plus, I don't think either the people behind Hunt for Gollum or the people behind Secret Wars are going to feel any need to move either one of those films. And as a matter of fact, would love it if the other one didn't move either. So I'm going to say it's an overreaction to say that one of them's going to move. I think they're both going to keep the date. What do you think?
Well, I'm trying to get my finger on the pulse of how much excitement there is for the Hunt for Golem, because that animated Lord of the Rings movie came out a couple years ago.
Trash.
And it was dead on arrival, garbage, trash, and you go like nothing. And I love Andy Serkis, the actor, motion capture legend. He's directing this movie, and the last two movies he directed were Animal Farm and Venom Let There Be Carnage. And so, like, I go into it, like, man, I only want the best for this guy. I hope he knocks it out of the park, but just have that built-in kind of like, all right, is he the right guy to do Lord of the Rings, something of that scale that will capture what Peter Jackson did and be a worthy follow-up? Or did they just kind of throw him a bone because they like him and wanted to? I don't know, but I'm nervous about him as the director. And so I come into it going like, man, I don't know how good this thing's going to be. I don't know how serious Warner Brothers is treating it, but this movie to me is not Dune 3. It's not this movie that everyone has confidence in, following up a movie that knocked it out of the park. So that's where I come from on this perspective of I'm just so nervous about the project in general that I need to be won over on the project to think that it has any business being on the same day as an Avengers movie, the way that Dune can do that. And like, no, we're not moving. We trust it. I don't know. I don't know if they should trust this movie the same way.
My headspace was in the exact same as yours about, are we really all that excited for Gollum? I mean, what's it called? Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power. Season 1 was awfully disappointing. Grant, I thought season 2 was a big step up, but you know, it is what it is. It was an uptick. But yeah, that War of the Rohirrim, I think was the name of the animated film. Totally disappointing. But I'll tell you what, I got to tell you this. When we were in the auditorium at CinemaCon, and the moment the screen came up, and it was just that classic Lord of the Rings shot of an aerial shot going over the snow-capped mountains and hearing the one violin note, and then you hear Gollum's voice. I'll tell you what, man, I was as skeptical as anybody, but the moment that happened, it's like an involuntary emotional boner. I was like all of a sudden my heart was like pounding, and like you just, for whatever reason it was, I all of a sudden, for the first time in a long time, I felt the magic of Lord of the Rings again. And I'll say this about Andy Serkis. I agree, Animal Farm wasn't it. I think he did as good of a job with Let There Be Carnage as could have been done. And I'll say this too, I'm forgetting the name of it. Do you remember it, Jonathan? The one he did with Andrew Garfield? The movie he directed. You know the one I'm talking about though,
Breathe.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Breathe.
I loved that movie. And that movie was not special effects, not spectacle, not gimmick. It was just all pure direction. And I thought it was great. And, you know, Andy did serve as Peter's second unit director. Peter is working very closely with him on it. So look. Does it carry the potential to be the next Rings of Power Season 1 or War of the Rohirrim? Absolutely it does. But I'm telling you, I cannot quantify or justify or give any rationale why that simple little presentation they gave me at CinemaCon all of a sudden made me feel all the Lord of the Rings feels again. So we'll see if they're able to capture that when they actually start a marketing campaign. All right, Jonathan. I think we got one more, don't we?
Yep, one more. This is going to go over to Sean. Is this an overreaction, Sean, when we hear from Amin Masha? Movies should not release tickets more than 2 months in advance.
I don't like to make hard rules if you can never do something, but generally speaking, they gotta knock this off. It feels like creating false scarcity. Like we're creating the scarcity, we're creating these bottleneck points where everyone rushes onto the AMC app at the same moment, trying to desperately get your tickets to Dune 3 or Avengers Doomsday months and months in advance when none of us know what we're going to be doing 4 months in the future, 5 months in the future.
Oh, I know what I'm doing.
I do.
Fair point. But like just this sort of like locking that sort of thing in so early, it just feels like we're trying to create headlines where like 5 months in advance, we've already pre-sold 100 million tickets. It's a great headline that helps create a narrative, but I don't think it actually serves the customer. I don't think it's better for individuals to like 5 months, like a year in advance for the Odyssey tickets. Like some of this is just crazy levels of like, what? A year in advance? So I didn't even try and get Dune tickets. I got my Doomsday tickets, but it's like, I'm not going to schedule that far in advance one day in the future.
You know what? I agree with you on one hand, but I'm going to call this an overreaction on the other, because first of all, let me say this, that rush, the ticket sites crashing, all that kind of stuff, that's going to happen regardless of when the first day of ticket sales are. Like we all remember what happened the day Infinity War tickets went on sale, the day Endgame tickets went. Like, so whether that day is 6 months in advance or 40 days in advance, that's going to happen. We're going to get that regardless. Here's what I would say. I don't think it should become a normal thing. Like I'm very excited. I bet a lot of you guys, we were talking about this before the show started. I bet a lot of you guys don't even know that there's this little movie opening tomorrow called Spa Day. It looks hilarious and I'm looking forward. I'm going to go see it tomorrow. 100%. Ann and I already got our tickets, but I don't think Spa Day needs to put their tickets on sale on January 12th. You know, right. I don't think that needs to happen. I don't think that needs to happen for 99.9% of the movies, but what I do not mind is if you have 2 or 3 movies per year that, you know, we talked about this when the first round of Odyssey tickets went on sale like 6 months ago, or a year ago, I should say. It made Odyssey now an event. It made it an event. And you know, when I think about it, I was saying this on the show yesterday. I just bought my tickets yesterday for a World of Warcraft in concert with a big symphony orchestra that's going to be playing down at the main arena here in Los Angeles.
You've really gone back headfirst into this, haven't you?
Oh, I really have. I really have gone right back into World of Warcraft. But they're doing like with all the music, and then like I bought those tickets 8 months in advance.
Yeah.
Ann and I just went to go see Lord of the Rings in concert at the Peacock Theater, and I had bought those tickets 6 months ago. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of
Broadway
things.
tickets, same thing.
Broadway tickets, you know, like concerts,
5 months in advance.
Sporting events, whatever. And, you know, I don't mind the idea, again, as long as it's 2 or 3, maybe at the most 4, as long as it's just a couple of movies a year, I don't mind this excitement that it generates. And really creating an event out of it. And so I think I'm with you, Sean. I don't want to see this becoming a normal thing, but if it's just a couple of key movies a year that we make big events out of, I'm okay with it. I'm actually okay with it myself.
I think as a business model, just real quick, I think one, they're taking their cues from pre-sales with video games and what the industry has done there. But I wonder too, on a financial level, someone discovered, wait, we could bring in $100 million 4 months before this movie comes out. I mean, they got to share that with the theater, but it has to work into their accounting. You know what I mean? So,
by the way, Bear Den After Dark is saying something, but is totally missing a big obvious thing. It says it encourages scalping, John. Guess what? You put the tickets on sale 30 days in advance. There's still going to be scalpers if everything's sold out. And you shouldn't have to be rich to see a movie. You don't have to be. Instead of going opening day, go the second day. or whatever. So I don't think it encourages scalping any more than buying the tickets 30 days out. I just don't think it does. So you're either in there getting the tickets for opening day or you're not, regardless of whether the tickets went on sale a year in advance or if the tickets went on sale 4 weeks in advance. It's really 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. So I don't think it makes much of a difference, to be honest with you. Anyway, guys, that will wrap up today's little installment of Overreaction. Thank you to all you guys who sent in your hot takes. And guys, keep your eyes open on the YouTube channel's community page for the next time we put out a call for submissions of your hot takes, and maybe you'll see your hot take being adjudicated on the next round of Overreaction. All right. With that down, guys, let's move on to this, shall we? Well, ever since the Calvarine showed up in Deadpool and Wolverine, truly one of the great moments of that film, seeing my boy Henry pop up on screen as Wolverine, a lot of people started insisting that that's it, Henry Cavill's going to be Wolverine, and that's why they're doing it. That's why they're doing it. Henry Cavill's going to be the new Wolverine. By the way, one of the greatest lines in that movie is just, you'd almost miss it, but is Deadpool in the background going, "Sir, let me just say we would treat you so much better than those dirtbags up the road." I mean, it's honestly one of the best lines in that movie. Yeah. But you know, I said, everybody pump your brakes. Henry Cavill is not going to be the new Wolverine. He's not going to be joining the MCU. Everybody just calm down. It was a nice, fun little thing. Well, then about a year and a half ago, a little more than a year and a half ago, I actually got contacted and told, you know, Campea, I hear you saying that, no, Henry's not going to be in MCU, and you might be wrong. And for those of you who've watched the show for a long time, you guys might remember this little clip from, again, a little over a year and a half ago. Let's check it out. I had a conversation last night via text that basically laid out that in August, Henry Cavill, or at least Henry Cavill's representation, did indeed have sit-down meetings, not necessarily with Kevin Feige, or maybe with, I don't know, but discussions about a role for Henry Cavill in the MCU. Now, this wasn't from some outlet. This wasn't one from some random Twitter account. I actually talked via text message, talked with somebody last night who said Henry, or at least his representation, whichever one you want, has indeed engaged in discussions with Marvel about having a role. That flies completely contrary to everything I've been saying, which is like, I don't believe he's going to do this. No, guys, this is just a quick thing. But listen. All right. So that was a little over a year and a half ago. And by looking at my face, about 15 pounds ago. But here's the thing. So I was the guy's like, guys, shush down. We're not going to see Henry in the MCU. And then all of a sudden I get a message saying, well, John, you know what? So I had to maybe begrudgingly acknowledge that maybe that was indeed going to be happening. Anyway, so that was a year and a half ago. Now, you guys know in the movie industry, this stuff takes years sometimes to coalesce and actually come together and happen. Well, the reason I bring all that up right now is because there are new reports. You guys have probably seen this over the last 48 hours. A bunch of outlets are running these new reports that are saying that Henry Cavill may indeed be coming into the MCU, which of course would go along. Again, let me be clear though. What I was told a year and a half ago was that him or his people had indeed been talking with Marvel about a possible place for him in the MCU. It was not that it was a done deal. So I don't know, as a matter of fact, that was ever brought to completion, if a deal was ever made. But there are these whispers and reports and rumors going around that it very well could be that he's in there. And so because of that, I want to reemphasize that we need to plant this one in the rumor mill. This one is firmly being put into the hollowed files of the rumor mill for now. But again, it is worth discussing because once again, you're seeing these reports going around. So a couple of years ago, we did a fantasy thing about Henry Cavill. Like, if this is all true, if he could be joining the MCU, who could it be playing? And I thought it would be a good idea now, in the midst of these new rumors surfacing and stuff like that, for us to have a little fun, just a little fun, and maybe revisit the idea of some Henry Cavill, my boy, Henry Cavill, fan casting in the MCU, and see how it would be the same and see how it would be different from what I predicted before. So, with that said, let's go over and let me give you my, I think, makes most sense picks. Not necessarily the 5 best or my top dream roles for him, but the 5 I think would make sense. Okay, here we go. In no particular order. Okay, in no particular order. First one I want to mention here is Victor Creed. Sabretooth. One of the things I learned in like my all-time favorite comic book story, which is X-Men Age of Apocalypse, was that Creed can actually be a really fascinating character. He's not just the mindless brute he's sometimes portrayed as, but he can actually be a really fascinating character. And you know what? I could totally see Henry Cavill playing an elevated, really cool Victor Creed. I could totally see him doing that. And so I'm going to make the first one that I mention here, Victor Creed. The second guy I've got on my list is the one that everybody's going to have on their list, but it makes sense. Captain Britain, Brian Braddock. Psylocke's brother.
Yeah.
Now, some people, I've heard some people say, well, Captain Britain's too on the nose. I'm like, why? Because he's British? You know, probably any actor they get to play him is probably going to be British, right? But I mean, there's also obviously going to be the comparisons to Superman, which is why I'm not going to have Hyperion on my list. I know a lot of people put Hyperion, but I think they're not going to want him to be a Superman-like character if they do indeed bring him over to Marvel. But I think there's a lot of interesting things you could do here with that. And I know this is not a comparison you probably had in your bingo card, but when you look at Enola Holmes, and which I'm not a big fan of the Enola Holmes movies, to be honest with you. I don't hate them, but I'm not a big fan of them. But the chemistry he has with Enola in those is really quite good. And if they did have a Psylocke in this to go along with that character, that could be really interesting, and that could play very well. All right. That's 2 down. Let's go on to the third. And this is the one that everybody's going to say for obvious reasons, but because it's obvious, I also have to have it on my list. Straight up Wolverine. I mean, look, we did just get the Calverine. That does not mean he's going to be Wolverine, but come on. Tell me he would not be a great Wolverine. Now, the one argument against it, I don't think you have to worry about this for Sabretooth, and I don't think you have to worry about it for Captain Britain, but maybe a little bit for Wolverine is, Wolverine's a character you would probably plan on having around for a long time. Henry is significantly older than Hugh was when he took over the role. So he might be a little bit old for it, granted, but I think for a character like Wolverine, and I think Henry's definitely young enough that he can still fit in there. So I think Wolverine or the Calverine is one that would absolutely have to be on our list. All right. At number 4, again, and these are in no particular order, he is my all-time favorite comic book character. And I think Henry would just be amazing in it. Magneto. I think the single greatest character ever to come out of comic books. And I'm not just saying it because he had white hair in The Witcher. But I think when you look at the age they're going for, when you look at how they're aging Charles, and Henry can easily on screen fit into that age. He can fit into the mid 40s, 100%. He can fit into the mid 40s. And he is such a deep, compelling character. And Henry, if you've never seen The Tudors, you got to watch The Tudors because Henry shows you just how good of an actor he is. I would love seeing him, and I think he would be a fabulous, fabulous Magneto. So that's the next one on my list. The last one I'm going to mention here Might catch some people by surprise, but I think if you really think about it, he could be great. Nathan Summers, Cable. I think he would be an amazing Cable. And look, I've seen some online discussions about the idea of Henry Cavill maybe as Cable. And one of the big objections is Henry Cavill, which is the opposite of some of the other roles. Henry Cavill's not old enough to play Cable. But I would make the argument that when you look at, first of all, he's been portrayed in different ways at different times. So I think you could fit him in there. Plus it's a lot easier to age up somebody on camera than it is to age them down. But also Cable, when you understand the time traveling nature of him, you could really, without too much trouble narratively, you could age Cable down a little bit and still have it fit perfectly good into the narrative. But man, you give Henry that Geralt of Rivia white hair, slap on the bodysuit, I think he would be a great Cable. I really do. So again, just running through these are no particular order, but I think Henry would be great as Sabretooth. I think he would be great as Captain Britain. I think he would be great as the Calverine. I think he'd be an awesome Magneto. And I think he'd be a really, really good Cable. So I could see him be any of those. Again, I know a lot of other people, guys, are going to throw Hyperion in there. The reason I lean away from Hyperion is because I think that's a little too Superman-like. And I think they might want to separate themselves a little bit from the Superman comparisons. So, but again, I wouldn't be shocked if in a couple of weeks we get a report in Deadline saying Henry Cavill cast as Hyperion. I won't fall out of my chair, but anyway, there's that. Sean, you've seen the rumors and the reports going around. This may or may not end up being, we are filing this under the rumor mill, of course, but in that world where Henry Cavill does join the MCU, now in a post Spider-Man Brand New Day era, and we're heading into the Mutant Saga, what MCU characters could you see him playing potentially?
Well, building off what you just said with Spider-Man and not wanting to just repeat a bunch of the names that you just said, because they're on my list as well, Norman Osborn.
Really?
You take some of these different people that he's played, of August Walker, the intimidating, threatening guy in a suit, and that's the behind the scenes Norman Osborn. And then he's also, you take the Enola Holmes sensitive version of him, and that's the mentor to Peter Parker. And so you see the charming version, and then behind the scenes, you see this menacing version. And then you look at the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, where you have him playing big and insane, and that's the Green Goblin version of him.
That's
and so
a
you kind of
great
take these
pick, man.
different ways that we've seen him, and you take each of those different, the variety in his performances, and you see it. And that's one where I was just kind of go through, and I heard that and went, oh, that's just interesting. It's so different and weird that I haven't heard people talking about it. That one could be a fun, fresh one to throw in there. Magneto is one that I had. I'm more interested in seeing him play a villain for the most part, to not just be, when he plays Superman, the altruistic hero, the icon. Let's go in the other direction. He's so good as a villain in Mission Impossible.
Oh,
Fallout.
so good.
So and make him Magneto and be such a different character, and show the intensity that he can bring, the dramatic side that he can bring, but also having just that charisma. And you can see why people would follow him. And with Eric's worldview, I think there's so much you could do with that. I didn't have Cable on my list, and I had to throw it out. As soon as you said that, I was like, oh, I love him as Cable. That's once again, it's kind of this imposing character that brings the intensity that he had as August Walker in Fallout, but on the more heroic side. I saw that when I went, oh man, that would be great. I don't love him as Wolverine, simply because building off a joke and turning that into your main Wolverine feels a little bit odd to me. And I just see it as, like, for a character that doesn't age, he is in his mid 40s. Starting at that point in time, I don't see them doing that for the long run. But I mean, at a point in time in the past, I think he would have been amazing if he did that. And I mean, Gambit's going to be in Doomsday, so clearly they're fine taking a joke in Deadpool and Wolverine and turning it into an actual main point in a movie. So those are the ones that I had. Actually, in Sabretooth, when you mentioned that, I was like, oh, I didn't have that on my list, but I'm going to throw that one on there. That's another one where, once again, I wasn't thinking about it, but as soon as you said it, I went, man, he'd be great with the ferocity that he could. Like in a Mission Impossible Fallout, this is a guy that pulled off cocking his arms, and you went, "Oh, this is awesome!" And you go, "That energy to Sabretooth? Yes, let's do it."
By the way, I'm seeing a couple of names. Like I've seen a couple of names thrown in a couple of times in our live chat. A couple people saying Bobby Drake, a couple people, Iceman, a couple people saying Colossus. The problem with both of those is Henry's too old for both, because they've with the casting they've done so far, they've set their age range for the core X-Men, right? It's that early to mid 20s for our Scotts, our Jeans, stuff like that. And you're going mid 40s for your Charles and Eric range. So I think Henry would be out of the age. I mean, you could change the story of Peter a little bit and make him like a more veteran guy. So, yeah, I could see him as Colossus. But again, when you look at the casting they've done so far, it just seems like Henry's aged out of those two roles. I just can't see him doing either of those. But what's that, John?
I've got him firmly marked as Shield Agent number 4 playing Galaga in the background.
Shield Agent number 4.
I do like him as Magneto because, you know, if we don't reference Batman v Superman often, but when he was playing evil Superman, you can see he's got that intensity. He could play a Magneto and be very intimidating.
Well, again, like Sean brought it up, like his character in Mission Impossible was so good.
Yeah.
Like I love that character so well. And like, I would be very down to see him as a villain. But again, depending on how you handle Magneto in the movies, because to me, like, it's just the greatest comic book character ever. And I'd love my boy to play that role. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? I mean, after a couple of years ago, I'd heard that they were talking. The rumors have now resurfaced that it looks like maybe he will be joining. Again, remember, we're keeping this under the rumor mill from now. Ain't nobody in any official position has confirmed any of this. It could come and go like a fart in the wind. But if he was going to join, who are the characters you could see Henry Cavill potentially playing in the MCU? Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, it's time for us to move on to the most important part of our show, which is, of course, taking your live comments and questions. But before we do, we're going to bid good afternoon to Sean Chandler. Sean, great as always, my friend. We'll look forward to talking to you again next week.
Looking forward to it.
Thanks a lot, man. And, of course, our technical director, Jonathan Voica. We'll talk to you tomorrow, Jonathan.
Yes, you will. See you guys tomorrow.
All right, guys. That now down said, we are going to move on to your comments and questions. Now, I am going to let you guys know, as I said at the beginning, I did turn off the super chats like well over a half hour ago because they filled up really fast. But let's go over now, shall we, and take a look to see at the questions you guys have sent in. And I think we're starting off with Francisco, and we are, who writes, "Ciao, Giovanni. Finally got around to seeing Brand New Day. Love the movie, but I find Peter's friendship with a mass murdering vigilante problematic. Maybe it's just me. Bring on the filthy." It is one that they really kind of tiptoe around in the movie, isn't it? Like they don't really like, come on, Frank, don't kill anybody. You do know he's killed probably about 400 or 500 people, right? And that was just in One Last Kill. Like just in One Last Kill, he piled up a considerable. So that's why we always thought it's going to be very interesting to see how they fit Frank into that world. And it's fine. But what happens when Spider-Man actually becomes a witness to one of those, Frank just took out 75 guys in 5 minutes? How does that affect Peter's relationship with Frank at that point? It's going to be interesting. All right. Next up, Yakov writes, "As much as I loved Endgame, what are the odds the OG Avengers survived the snap?" What? As much as I love Endgame, what are the odds all the OG Avengers survived the snap? Well, 50-50. Right? Like a lot of characters disappeared. A lot of them disappeared. A lot of them vanished. And a lot of the ones that stayed behind were in fact the OG ones. Although oddly enough, Hawkeye wasn't part of at least Infinity War. He came into Endgame, but yeah, it was a 50-50 thing. I wouldn't think much about it, to be honest with you. I wouldn't think much about it. All right. Animesh writes, I cringed and tensed up so hard at Whalefall's trailer. I want to go see it in theater, but I don't know if I or anyone will be able to handle that. Listen. True talk here. I remember I hit play on the Whalefall trailer. And I remember wondering to myself, can I handle watching this? Because the first one stressed me the fuck out. Like, I was so stressed out with the first one. And I remember putting it on like, can I handle this? Because it really stresses me out. And I mean, it's brilliant. And I'm going to be there opening day to watch this movie. But I have a feeling, and I never do this for any horror movie. I never do it for any gore in movies. Nothing to me, because I know it's all fake. Doesn't matter. But I have a feeling a lot of me watching Whalefall is going to be this. Like, just because it's so stressful. So I totally understand what you're saying, my friend. I totally understand what you're saying. All right. Amin writes, Wildwood looks stunning. It absolutely does. From that trailer alone, it should probably be nominated for Best Production Design and or Best Cinematography at the Oscars. Well, again, let's not be handing out awards on trailers. I mean, there is an award show called the Golden Trailers, which are actually awards for trailers, and I could certainly see him winning a bunch of those. But let's see the movie before we start handing out awards on trailers. But yes, the production design looks stunning. Cinematography, and yes, cinematography in animation is a real thing, looked stunning. So I can't wait to see it and see how the whole thing turns out. All right, next up, we got Animesh writes, Ted Lasso Season 4 is going amazing. It also has Faye Marseille, who is the waif in Game of Thrones, detective in Adolescence, and Mon Mothma's sister in Andor. Oh, really? I loved her in everything I've seen her in. You know what? I have still only watched episode 1 of Ted Lasso Season 4, and I loved it. Loved episode 1. I just haven't gotten around to watching. I believe there are 2 more out, right? Like, they're on episode 3 now? Is that where we're at? Anyway, I'm at least 1 behind, maybe 2 behind. I think I will correct that today. I think today, I'll wait till Anne gets home because she wants to watch it too. We will get caught up on Ted Lasso, but I really love the first episode, and I'm so glad that show is back. All right, Yasmar writes, if they want to change Magneto's backstory and still have him see the absolute worst in humanity, have him watch 30 minutes of trailers at AMC before seeing Scream 7 opening night in a broken recliner. The horror. You know, that's an interesting thing is going to be, which do they pick? Like, which human atrocities do they have to pick for Magneto as a younger kid to witness? Because obviously it can't be the Holocaust at this point, because then Magneto would be in his 90s. So it's going to be really interesting to see which one they pick to represent that. And, you know, somebody was saying on my show, somebody wrote in yesterday on the show and said, you know, you can't take away the Jewish nature of the character. I'm like, well, you don't have to. You can still say Magneto, that his heritage is Jewish, that he is who he is, but that maybe his family had moved to and was living in Bosnia, or his family had up and moved to Rwanda, or his family had up and moved to wherever. You can still maintain that. That can still be a part of his character. But yeah, they're definitely going to have to pick another atrocity in human history for Magneto to witness. All right. Next up. Xerox, I hope I'm saying that right, writes, Henry Cavill as Hyperion would be cool and funny. I mean, it would be cool, but again, the problem is then it becomes looked at, like, here's the thing. Casting Henry Cavill in the MCU would be seen as a great move. What I fear is casting Henry Cavill as Hyperion would be seen as a gimmick. Oh, so you're getting Superman to play this universe's version of Superman. I think you need to give him a different character. Now, again, maybe that is who they're planning on. And if they do, I'll still be there with bells on to watch Henry Cavill, even as Hyperion. I'll be thrilled. But you would have to go into it knowing that that's all everybody would be talking about. And I think that's something they'd rather avoid. So, hey, it very well could be Hyperion, but I'm thinking they'll go in another direction. All right, Alex Weiss sends in a $20 super chat. Thank you, Alex. Appreciate that, man. And Alex writes in, hey, Alex from Burbank here. Got my Dune Part 3 tickets yesterday in the Uber on the way to the theater to get it in person and counted towards my A-list. Talk about dumb luck. Thanks. Love the show and bring on the filthy. Well, I'm glad you got it and you're going to be going to see it in one of my favorite movie theaters, the AMC Burbank 16. And, you know, it's not just because AMC Movie News really started there. We moved into we converted their big giant storage closet essentially into our first AMC Movie News studios. And I worked every day at that AMC Burbank 16 because that's where our studio was. But it's also a very well-run theater. And I think we talked about this recently. I think the AMC Burbank 16 got listed as the busiest movie theater in America. And for good reason. Again, I haven't been a regular at AMC Burbank for a couple of years since I moved out of Burbank, but it is an exceptionally well-run theater with exceptionally well-trained and just very pleasant staff. It's a great place to go see a movie. So I always look forward to it when I get to go see a movie there. Okay. Let's see. Next up, we've got Cameron, who writes, hey, John, next month we've got Endgame Encore and Forever Island. You probably mean Forgotten Island coming out. Are those two movies you're considering for your next movie meetup? Well, I mean, the first thing I have to do is know when I'm doing it, right? So I can't pick which movie it's going to be until I know exactly when we're doing it. And I think it's going to be in the second half of September. But I haven't nailed that down yet. Then once we establish the whens, then I got to establish the wheres. And I know we're going to do at least 3 cities, maybe 4, maybe 5 on the next leg of the movie meetup tour starting next month. The 3 cities that I know for sure that we're doing, that we are absolutely doing. We are for sure doing Nashville, Tennessee. So viewers in Nashville, get ready. We are for sure doing Atlanta, Georgia. It's a crime that we haven't done Atlanta already, but we are coming to Atlanta. And then I've just locked in that we are for sure going to do Charlotte, North Carolina. We're going to do Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, I might just be the 3, but I may also add, because it's in a relatively same vicinity and on the way, I may add Pittsburgh and I may add Houston. I'm not sure about that yet, but the 3 we're definitely going to do: Charlotte, Atlanta, Nashville. We may add 1 or 2 more on top of that, but those are the next legs on the movie. And then once we get that all locked, then I'll pick the movies. Then I'll pick the movies. All right. Next up, we've got Amin writes, is there a film where an actor gave a great performance, but you also thought they were miscast? That's the way I felt about Tom Holland in The Odyssey. No, I've never felt usually if I feel an actor, if a performer gives a great performance in it, then they weren't miscast. I did not think Tom Holland was miscast. Look, I don't think The Odyssey was Tom Holland's best performance, but I thought he was very good in it. Was he as good as Matt Damon was in it? No, he wasn't as good as Matt Damon was in it. Was he as good as Anne Hathaway was in it? No, he wasn't as good as Anne Hathaway in it, but I thought he was very good in it. I don't for any reason think he was miscast. And before I hear it from anybody else, remember, no matter what actor you put in there, that actor would still be saying the line, "My dad's coming back." That wasn't Tom Holland's line. That was the line for the character that was written. And any actor you put in there would have said that line. So if you're saying he was miscast because he said that line, then that's, you got to understand that's not how movies work. So I was perfectly good, but no, I honestly can't think of, like, one of the biggest miscasts I think ever in comic book movies in particular. And she wasn't bad, but because it just wasn't the right role for her, and she's a great actress. Do any of you, let me see if any of you guys in the live chat know who I'm going to say. Because it wasn't the right role for her, there was no giving a great performance, even though she, I think, is a very, very good actress. And nope, it's not Halle Berry as Catwoman. That was just a bad movie. It wasn't Jane and Thor. I thought she was great for the role, to be honest with you. It wasn't, although Amy Adams, I do think was miscast. Yep, I do think. It wasn't Maggie Gyllenhaal. It wasn't Emilia Clarke. Wasn't Jean Grey. No, none of you are getting it. Wow. It was Mary Jane. None of you are getting it. It was Mary Jane in the original Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies. Kristen Dunst as Mary Jane. I just thought that was, she is a great actress. I think Kristen Dunst is a great actress. But she's not Mary Jane. And like, you could just feel, I never once felt, again, she did not ruin the movie by any stretch of the imagination at all. But I just think the depth of her talent was never able to be really put on display because it was just the wrong character for her. That's how I felt about it. But no, I've never felt that a performer gave a great performance while at the same time being miscast. I think one kind of excludes the other. I think. All right. Let's see. Next up, A. Marcellus writes, Henry Cavill is obviously playing Man Super from the planet Ripton. That would be ballsy if they did something like that, A. Marcellus. Man Super. Raymond Verrata writes, my pick for Henry, Captain Britain, Wolverine, Magneto, Hyperion, Guardian, Vindicator of Alpha Flight. Look, they're never doing Alpha Flight. They're never doing Alpha Flight. For those of you who don't know, Alpha Flight is an all-Canadian superhero team that Wolverine has his origins kind of planted in. And they're great. That's where Puck comes from. That's where Sasquatch comes from, and North Star. But they're never going to do it. They're never going to do it. Which sucks. But I think Vindicator, as well as Hyperion, I'm going to put those both under the same kind of heading there, that they're a little too Superman-like, that I don't think they're going to risk that. But I do like the other picks there, Raymond. All right, Real Docs writes, what's your favorite Leica film? Here are mine. 1, Coraline. 2, Kubo and the Two Strings. 3, Paranorman. 4, The Box Trolls. 5, Missing Link. I got to go Kubo and the Two Strings. I like Coraline, but you know what's funny? And my friends love Coraline. I'm not as big of a Coraline fan as a lot of my friends are. I like it. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy it, but I kind of enjoy it on the same level that I like The Box Trolls. Like, I thought The Box Trolls was a very charming little film. Not one that I've ever watched again, but I remember enjoying watching it and I had a good time with it. And it's a good little movie. I thought the same thing about Coraline, but man, some of my friends love Coraline, like love that movie. But for me, it's Kubo and the Two Strings. All right. Augie M writes, hey, John, my coworker Maurice argues superhero movies must strictly match the comics. And then he doesn't know much about movies. You once explained brilliantly why adaptations have no obligation to be one-to-one. Could you share that take again so I can show it to him? Well, I mean, there's no one take. It comes down to the whole argument that a movie based on any source material must be a direct one-to-one with that source material. And that's nonsense. That's absolute nonsense. The main job, and the same is true of TV showrunners, but the main job of a filmmaker is not to make a movie that is as accurate as possible to the source material. The main job of a filmmaker is to make the best movie possible. That's the job of a filmmaker. And it's wonderful if you think your comic book is the perfect story or your novel is the perfect story, whatever, but you have to understand stories hit differently when they transpose mediums. You can do something on a printed page that wouldn't work as well on a live action screen or an animated screen or whatever. Also, like a comic book story may span 2 years of issues. Well, you've got 2 hours to make a movie. And if you can't just make that movie by cutting out a whole bunch of stuff to squeeze in the story, you need to adapt it and mold it to make it the best it can be for the medium you're doing it in the time frame you have to do it. And that requires adaptation. It doesn't permit adaptation, it requires adaptation. It has to be adapted in order for it to work. Trying to do a one-to-one translation is simply preposterous. It cannot work. It does not work. And look, where you can, you do, but then you understand you're going to hit these places where you have to adapt. And you move forward. You try to stay as close to the spirit of the source material as you can, but otherwise it's just preposterous. It's preposterous. I mean, again, if there is a way to do a 2-hour movie while being 100% faithful to a piece of source material, and that source material just happens to translate to the screen in a perfect way, great. Lightning is struck. Otherwise, you got to adapt. You have to adapt. Anyway, thanks for that, Augie. And by the way, that was a $27 super chat. Thank you, Augie. Appreciate it. And it's a Canadian $27. So a good Canadian kid writing that in. Thank you, Augie. Appreciate that, man, very much. All right, Ryan Lonnie writes, about yesterday, I sympathize with your Magneto argument. All I'm saying is that I get why Jewish fans may be upset. It's sensitive for many of them. Look, that's fine. That's fine, but it is what it is. Like, it's like saying, you know, you're going to really upset Alan Rickman fans if you don't cast him as Snape again. Okay, oh no, I get it. But Alan Rickman is dead. You can't. It is not because it's no longer practical. Sentimentality aside, it is no longer practical to have Alan Rickman play Snape. It's just not practical. You just can't do it. Having Magneto's origin stories, unless you're setting the new X-Men movies in 1988 or 1997 or whatever, unless you're setting the new X-Men movies in a different time period, which they're not, they're modern day, it is simply not practical anymore to say that Magneto's origins are in the concentration camps. Something that was never a part of his origin story until 1981. It's just not practical anymore. What are you going to do? What happens 30 years from now? And I know I said this the other day, but what are you going to do 30 years from now when they do their next X-Men reboot? Are you going to have a 130-year-old Magneto? No, look, at some point, you just have to say, okay, that's not practical to do. Look, again, like I said earlier in the show, you can still say he's of Jewish heritage. You can 100% still say that, but it's just no longer practical to say that he grew up or as a kid, he was in the Holocaust. It's just not practical to do it anymore. It's been 30 years since that amazing opening to the X-Men, the first X-Men movie, but it's been almost 30 years since that. It can't be done. So I sympathize, but at some point you have to just acknowledge, okay, we can't do that anymore because it's not practical anymore. So what's the next best thing? And I think the next best thing is maintain his Jewish heritage, but just say it was a different human atrocity that he lived through as a Jewish kid. That's just the best way to do it at this point. All right. Next up. We've got a Movie Buff who writes, what if Henry plays Sebastian Shaw? Yeah, he could, but what's your question? Okay, what if Henry plays Sebastian Shaw? What about it? If he plays Sebastian Shaw, then he's playing Sebastian Shaw. I mean, there is a possibility that could be a character because we do have Emma Frost, right? So Sebastian Shaw becomes a possibility since Emma Frost is there. I don't know if they're going to do that, though. Me and Rob had a quick conversation the other day about this. Like, does Emma Frost being there automatically mean there's going to be a Hellfire Club? Well, it is possible that we already meet Emma Frost with Hellfire Club being a part of her past. So I don't know, but Sebastian Shaw is always a possibility. All right. Kara Black writes in a $20 super chat. Thank you, Kara. Appreciate that. And Kara writes in, yes, I made sure my Dune 3 IMAX Insider tickets from AMC are for Tuesday, December 15th, because that's my birthday. Oh, happy birthday. Well, I guess it's like 4 months away. For me, it probably was only $16 since I live in a medium-sized city about 90 minutes away from Dallas, Texas. Still, that is crazy because, again, for our IMAX screens for the Monday and Tuesday, $43 a ticket. $43 a ticket. So congratulations. You're going to get some people, you're going to get a bunch of people coming to those screenings who are going to pay $43. Congratulations. You made a few extra bucks. But I guarantee you there's a percentage of those people going who aren't going to think about going back again because you just reinforced to them the idea that going to the movies is too expensive. So, hey, you made an extra 20 bucks. Yay. But what you've done is you've probably sacrificed the $500 that they could have spent on movie tickets, popcorn, soda, and candy over the next year, except now you've turned them off. So, yay, well done. You made 20 bucks. Woohoo, aren't you smart? Anyway, really pisses me off. Anyway, Kara, I'm glad you were able to get tickets at that price. That's amazing. I'm glad you got that. And I'm glad you get to do that on your birthday. All right. Next up, we have Eric, who writes, I'm sure Magneto backstory will be fine. What important is Magneto's and Professor X's different viewpoints on the same thing? One sees the good in people, the other has seen the worst in people. I mean, that's one of the brilliant things about the whole story of X-Men in general, right? It's why the comparison was made between, Eric and Charles as Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. They are two individuals who want to protect and do what's right for mutants. Both of them want that. Both of them want bright futures for mutants. But one of them believes that that can be done and needs to be done through coexisting with humanity. And then the other believes that humanity is the obstacle to the happiness and future of mutants. And what happens when you get that type of a clash of philosophies? It's brilliant. It's so brilliant. And it's why it's believable that these two absolute arch enemies are still at the same time absolutely the best of friends. Like it's such a brilliant conceit. I love it. I love the way they do it. And I can't wait to see. But yes, that has to be part of the core understanding of these movies. If they don't do that, then they're missing out on the spirit of X-Men. Now, look, Kevin Feige may have another idea and maybe it'll be great. I don't want to make any absolutes right now before I've even seen what the movies are, but it would seem to me pretty important to make sure you capture that spirit of X-Men, because that's what it is. That's what X-Men is. All right, next up. Thomas P. writes, did you see the Beyond the Spider-Verse scene leak? Got me excited, although it was unfinished. I didn't, but I did see a lot of it at CinemaCon, and a lot of it was unfinished footage and all that kind of stuff. And I haven't seen the new one, but I heard it was a lot of the stuff that we saw at CinemaCon. All I know is this, man. I cannot wait to watch this movie. I cannot wait. I mean, you guys know, I think that the first two Spider-Verse movies, Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse, I think they are the two best Spider-Man movies ever made. Live action or otherwise. I think they are definitively the two best Spider-Man movies ever made. Not everybody agrees with that. That's totally cool. Movies are subjective, all good. But to me, that's it. And I cannot wait to watch this third one, man. I cannot wait to watch this third one. All right. Next up. We've got Thanos Demands writes, remember Shane Black? Oh, yeah, man. No, well, I do, only because I looked up the 2018 Predator movie earlier. TV tropes say he hasn't done anything since, which is really weird because Shane Black is great. Yes, that Predator movie was a huge swing and a miss. No doubt. Totally understand. It was terrible. But he is so great. I love Shane Black and I love his work. And I really hope, I don't know if this is a Mike Myers situation. You know, Mike Myers was King of the World and then he did that Love Guru movie and it hurt him. Like the failure of that movie, both the response to it and the box office results of it hurt him so much that he kind of pulled back and got out of the spotlight and stayed away for a long time. I have a feeling that that's the same thing here. But we're talking about the guy who did, it was Shane Black who did Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, right? Like I'm not misremembering that, right guys? Like it was Shane Black who did Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. It was Shane Black who did The Nice Guys, which is like, oh my God, that movie is so good. It's so good. He's just a really great filmmaker and I would love to see him come back. I really would. All right, next up, Curtis Lopez writes, who is your favorite Disney princess? Oh, you know what? In the 17 years I've done this, I don't think I've ever been asked that question. I love that question. My favorite Disney princess. Okay, I think it's between Moana and Jasmine. I think Moana and Jasmine would be the two. Yeah. I mean, I can't think of a Disney princess I didn't like, but I mean, my favorite ones. Oh yeah. I've never really thought about it. So I will maybe I'll give a different answer another time, but for now I will go with Moana and Jasmine. Yeah, that's a great question. Never been asked. It is very rare. I've been doing this long enough that it's very rare that I can say that's a question I've never been asked before. And I can say that here, Curtis. Thank you for that. All right, Curtis also writes, better musical songwriter, Alan Menken or Lin-Manuel Miranda. Well, I'll listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know Alan Menken's off the top of my head, but I'll just go with Lin-Manuel Miranda. I mean, dear God, his stuff is so good. His stuff is so good. Listen, I don't talk about it a lot, but I still, there are several songs from Hamilton that I catch myself humming and singing like all the time. It's a stage play, so I don't talk about it a lot, but God, Hamilton is one of those things that culturally speaking, not just movies or plays, but culturally speaking, is one of those rare occasions where something has a world of hype and then you see it and it more than lives up to the hype. Like Hamilton is so good. Not to mention like his music in the original Moana, so good. So yeah, I'll go Lin-Manuel Miranda, even though it's not fair for me to do that because I'm not even sure off the top of my head who the other guy is. All right, even though I probably should know. All right, next up. Thomas P. writes, I also do a yearly rewatch of The West Wing and The Wire. Aaron Sorkin and David Simon, I reckon, are two of the best in the business. Yeah, I've never done a rewatch of The Wire. I've never done, but I should. The Wire is brilliant. And I know there are several TV files who are like, The Wire is the greatest show ever made. I don't think it's the greatest show ever made, but oh my God, that show is crazy good. And when you go back and watch The Wire now, here's the thing. The Wire has a Godfather kind of thing to it. When people today who have never seen The Godfather go back and watch The Godfather, you can see their eyes open up. Because all of a sudden in a moment, as they're watching The Godfather, they realize almost half of everything they've ever watched has been influenced by The Godfather. Like you're watching The Godfather and like, oh my God, you can see this movie in it and this movie in it and this movie in it. Like it's just how The Godfather's influenced half of everything they've ever watched in their lives. The Wire is that for modern television. Like when you go back and watch The Wire for the first time, you're going to have a third eye open on your head. It's like, oh my God, like so much modern television is completely inspired by The Wire. And it's just one of those shows. And yes, but I still do like a yearly or bi-yearly rewatch of The West Wing. It's just one of the best television shows ever made, man. It's just so desperately good. All right, next up. Thanos writes in again. Here's a fun suggestion. Squadron Supreme starring Henry Cavill as Hyperion, Ben Affleck as Nighthawk, Gal Gadot as Power Princess, Ryan Reynolds as Dr. Spectrum, Jason Momoa as Amphibian, etc. Little gimmicky. I mean, I love everybody on that list except for Gal Gadot. Let me rephrase that. I have come to really appreciate Gal as a personality. Like I've watched Gal now several times doing fan events and panels. And my God, if that woman isn't just wonderfully charming, very articulate, and just like, I watch her in some of these events and I go, damn, like, and forget the fact that male or female, she's one of the most beautiful people in the world. I just think to myself, God, I would love to hang out with that person. I really would. Like, that's always my impression of her. Whenever I see her do panels, interviews, Q&As, stuff like that, like I find her to be a very impressive person. That said, she cannot act. She can't act. Sorry. I've given her years and years. And yeah, I said from day one that she was cast as Wonder Woman. I was like, I don't think this girl can act. And then she can't act. But aside from that, I love everybody else on your list, including Momoa, Ryan Reynolds, Cavill. Yeah, I love them all. All right. Scott H. writes, and sends in a $20 super chat. Thank you, Scott. And Scott writes, the problem with Cavill is he is true to the source material. I think that the casting of Indy Navarrete may run into the same problem. Geeks that know the source material have issues with the corporate committee scripts. What does that have to do? Okay, I got to ask though, Scott, what does that have to do with Indy Navarrete? What does corporate committee scripts mean for Indy Navarrete? What does that, what does the script have at all to do with the actress playing a role? And I'm not trying to give you a hard time. I'm asking. I just don't understand what your point is. Like, what do you mean Cavill? Why is I don't understand the question. The problem with Cavill is he's true to the source material. What does that mean? What source material? Here's what I need you guys. I encourage you guys once in a while, because I've done this too, Scott. I've totally done this too, where like I have a thought and I hammer it out and then I realize, oh, that made sense in my head. But when you guys send in a question, because you're sending in a question and like you're supporting the channel, I want to try to give you guys a good answer. Make sure before you hit send, read out what it is you type and say, would a normal person just be able to read this and understand what I'm asking? Because I'm not really understand what it is you're asking here. And I feel bad about that because you supported our channel. I want to give you a good, at least as good of an answer as I can give. And I'm just not quite sure what A, your point is, or B, what the question is. So I apologize that I'm not giving a good answer. I'm not able to make out what it is you're saying there, unfortunately. But thank you, Scott, for taking the time to write something in anyway. And thank you for supporting us. All right. BT writes, you say all studios passed on, Coyote versus CVE. Do you mean Coyote versus CVA? Anyway, you say all studios passed on you probably mean Coyote versus Acme. That's only because Warner Brothers wanted $50 million when the tax break would only get them 30. Studios didn't want to gift Warner Brothers an extra 20 million. Bullshit. That's bullshit. And you know it. Any studio would have bought it. Warner Brothers was only asking for what they spent on the movie. That's all Warner Brothers wanted back. They wanted what was spent on the movie. And any studio, if they thought buying the movie at that price would give them a good chance of making a profit, they would buy it like that. Warner Brothers spent $50 million to make it. Actually, I think it might have even been higher than that. I think what they were asking for might have actually been a little bit higher than what you're even saying. But if any studio thought for 1 second that that movie could be profitable at the price it was made for, and the price that would have to be paid to market it and get it in theaters, any studio would have picked it up. Not one single studio passed on it because they didn't want to gift Warner Brothers an extra $20 million. That is not at all a reason why any studio would pass on it. Studios are far too greedy. They're all about money. And if they thought buying Coyote versus Acme at just the cost of the production of the movie could have made them money, they would have bought it 50 times over. But not one single studio thought the movie could be profitable. Now, they might be wrong. We could find out after Coyote versus Acme comes out, they might be wrong. But the reality is every studio took a look at it. They analyzed it. They had their bean counters go over the numbers, and not a single one of them thought it would be profitable. That's the fact. That's a fact. The idea that any studio took a pass on the movie because they didn't want a gift, they wouldn't care. If Warner Brothers made something for $10 million and they asked for $200 million for it, and another studio thought they could make $500 million by buying it, they wouldn't hesitate because they thought, we don't want to gift Warner Brothers $80 million. They don't care about that. Grown-ups don't care about that. It's a business. They care about where they could make money. And the fact is, not a single studio thought the movie could be profitable based on what it cost to make it and what it was going to cost to market it. Now, hopefully, we will find out that they're wrong, because it looks really good. But I don't think they are wrong. I like right now, Coyote versus Acme is projected to make less than $10 million opening weekend. I will be one of those $10 million. I will be their opening weekend because I think it looks really good. But yeah, they passed on it because they didn't think it could be profitable. Period. That's it. They're not worried about giving Warner Brothers extra money. They don't care about that if they could make profit. That's it. And none of them thought it could make profit, except for Ketchup. Ketchup thinks they can make money on it, and I hope they're right. I hope they're right, but we'll have to wait and find out. All right. Next up, Benji Gator writes, have you done a bit that compares the various PLF screens, like video, audio, seating? I'm familiar with Dolby IMAX, but find the others very confusing. You know what's funny, Benji? My wife and I just had, we talked about that a few weeks ago, maybe in the car, because we're going to do this thing soon. I shouldn't tell you about it because now somebody's going to copy my idea, but whatever. We're going to do this thing soon where I think me and Rob and Ann are going to jump in the camper van and we're going to spend a day driving to like 5 different movie theater chains. And we're going to go in and order the popcorn at each one of those movie theater chains. And we're going to do a video comparing the popcorn quality at the 5 different movie theater chains. So look for that. We're going to do that pretty soon. Then Ann thought, because, you know, there's all these new formats, because AMC just came out with a new format, AMC XL. Then you got 4DX, and you got ScreenX, and you got Real IMAX, and you got LIMAX, which is still a very impressive theater. You got AMC Dolby Prime. You've got Prime that isn't Dolby. You got all these different types of premium large format, PLF. That's what PLF stands for, premium large format. And I think we probably should do a video comparing all of them because, yeah, that would give me an excuse to go visit all those theaters. Anyway, next up, we've got Charlie Tobin, who writes, Megan Ellison is a phenomenal filmmaker with American Hustle, Phantom Thread, Booksmart. She is different from her family. Work is edgy. Oh, you're talking about David Ellison's, is that David Ellison's sister? Yeah, because, okay. When so first of all, Daddy Ellison, it's Larry, right? Larry Ellison is the dad. Anyway, so Daddy gave David and his sister money. David got Skydance, and I think his sister, is it A24 that his sister, maybe it wasn't A24. If you guys in the live chat remember which one it was, his sister got into another studio. Whether she bought into the studio or bought the studio, I can't remember, but Annapurna, that's what it was. I knew it wasn't A24. Annapurna. Thank you. Curtis was the first one to put that in. So, yeah, I mean, look, I like the idea that you got siblings in a family that love the movies and want to be in the movie business. I've always said that about David Ellison, by the way. And as much as he's acting like an absolute spoiled little and petulant child, the thing that I like about David and that family is that they truly do love movies. They really do. And I think they really want to be movie makers. I think that's legit. It doesn't excuse them for not acting properly, but I mean, I really do. But I don't know as much about the sister as I do about him. For obvious reason, we've had most of our attention on him. But yeah, she's been involved there too. And I don't know her resume off the top of my head, but I'm really glad you brought that up, Charlie. All right, next up. Scott H. Dune is not for the average viewers. I wouldn't say that. I think there's definitely a demographic within the larger framework of average viewers. I think there are a lot of average viewers that would love Dune. It's just that Dune is not for everybody. Like, Dune isn't a huge action adventure like a Pirates or a Star Wars or something like that. It's definitely more heady sci-fi, which there's nothing wrong with you if that's not for you. It's just a thing that's not for everybody, right? It totally works for me. I love it, but that doesn't mean it's for other people. And that's why I remember when the first Dune was coming out and the conversations arose about the possibility of the first Dune maybe joining the $1 billion club. I was like, no, Dune is not a $1 billion kind of film. It's not a $1 billion kind of story. If you do it really well, it can still be very successful, but it's not for everybody, right? Well, we saw the box office from the first one to the second one skyrocket because the second one made over $700 million. Now I'm thinking the third one might have a chance to be a $1 billion film. But yeah, while it is not a movie that's for everybody, I would say there's still a good chunk of average viewers that fits perfectly well with. So it's not that it's not good for average viewers. It's just not for everybody within that demographic of average viewers, if you know what I mean, if you know what I'm saying. Because think of it like comic book films. A lot of average viewers love comic book films, but there's also a lot of just average moviegoers that comic book films aren't their cup of tea. Right? So yeah, I wouldn't say in general, average viewers don't like Dune. I think it is, just not for all of them. All right. Thanks for that, Scott. Next up, Pedro Rodriguez writes, howdy, John. Do you think getting a Ezra series a good idea or see him in a future Star Wars project movie? Also, any chance you will do a movie meetup at the AMC in Montclair, California? No, I probably won't do one in Montclair. I'm only going to do one more in California. Like I did San Diego, we've done LA, we've done San Francisco. I think the only other movie meetup I'm still yet to do in California is going to be the one at my home theater. Ann and I were actually talking about that this morning, that we've got to do a movie meetup at the AMC Tyler Galleria here in Riverside. So, and we are going to do one. We're going to do one. So for people who live in the area, if you're talking about Ezra Miller, no one's going to touch Ezra Miller with a 100-foot pole. Does that mean I think Ezra's career is dead? Not necessarily. if there's anything we love more than tearing people down, which sadly is something we love to do as a species, and Ezra has nobody to blame but himself for that, but we love comeback stories. We love comeback stories, right? Rocky, Kim Kardashian. Some of you know the reference, some of you don't. But we love a good comeback story. But I think if Ezra was ever going to do a comeback, he'd have to start with some very, very small things. I think like some very, very small things. Oh, some people are saying you mean Ezra from Star Wars. Oh, that's where you got to be more specific, guys. Do I think getting an Ezra series is a good idea? No. Or see him in a future Star Wars project? No. I love Rebels. I do. I love Rebels, but no, I don't think it is either a good idea to do an Ezra series or give him his own Star Wars movie. I don't think that would work at all. All right. Next up, Kara Black sends in a $20 super chat. Thank you, Kara, again, who writes, for me personally, I would prefer if Marvel just used Daphne Keene's Lara X-23 as Wolverine for this iteration of the X-Men. I feel it would be a more fresh approach due to the numerous films we've already gotten with Logan. No, absolutely not. Look, I'm not saying that we can't have Daphne Keene's X-23. We can absolutely have Daphne Keene's X-23. But it's saying, I think instead of having Batman in the new DCU, just have Nightwing. We've already had a lot of Batman. Let's just do Nightwing. Spider-Man may be the most popular MCU character. That's probably not even in dispute anymore. But what is also not in dispute is that Wolverine is, by multiple factors, by far the most popular X-Men related character. There is no character in the X-Men pantheon that comes even remotely close to the popularity of Wolverine. You cannot go into a new X-Men era and not have Wolverine any more than you can go into a DC thing and not have Superman or Batman. You can't do it. X-23 is not Wolverine. I don't care what label you slap on Lara's character. She's not Wolverine. She's not Logan. Now, again, I would be totally open to having her as a character in there, but you have to have Logan. He is simply your most popular character and arguably best character, depending on who you ask. So they may or may not start with having X-Men in the universe, much like the DCU did not start with Batman in their universe. We may not start with Wolverine, but you 100% must have Wolverine. You have to have Wolverine. Again, he's your most popular character. You can't not do it. So yeah, that would be my perspective on that character. So again, I'm with you. Love to see Daphne Keene. Love to see her as X-23, but not in place of. It's not an either or. For me, Kara, it would be a both and. It would be a both and scenario. All right. Last question of the day. Thank you for that, Kara, again. Emiliano just sends in a little super chat badge to be supportive. Oh, thank you, Emiliano. Appreciate that. And guys, that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here and making this little show part of your day. Big thank you to the thousands of you guys in the live chat for helping me out when I was asking you guys some questions, seeing the conversation going on. You guys are great. Thank you for not just watching our show, but by being a part of the live chat, guys. You guys are a part of the show. So thank you so much for that. Also, big thank you to all of you guys who sent in the super chats. Number one, because you gave us interesting things to talk about. And number two, you supported this channel as you did it. And all of us involved with the John Campea Show, thank you guys so very much for your support. Now, on yesterday's show, I said, come back tomorrow where Chris, from 3C Films is going to be on. Obviously, I got my days mixed up. Wednesday is Sean's day, but tomorrow, Chris from 3C Films will be on joining us. And of course, our very own technical director, Jonathan Voikel, will be joining me as well. We're looking forward to that. I hope you guys will come back and make our show part of your day tomorrow as well. All right, guys. That will do it for me. Thank you so much for being here. My name is John Campea, and until next time, my friends, Bye-bye.